a good liar. That's the part that offends me the most. Okay, Aftyn Behn is the name of a human, apparently. Actually, it's a woman who's running as the Democrat nominee in Tennessee's 7th district, congressional district special election, which is, that's Nashville. Okay, Nashville is the 7th district. Nobody ever heard of this person until a few days ago when she started going viral for all the wrong reasons in the lead up to the election.
Well, Matt, that already seems like we're going to be working from a poisoned well. Whenever you begin with a fallacy for ad populum, I'm just going to assume that we're in for a thrill ride of idiocy from you. Before we go any further, though, I want to celebrate some fan art that came from Cricket recently. They said they colored the dress picture that they made a few days ago, and they've also said that they've tortured themselves officially. I don't know where that's coming from, but honestly, this looks fantastic, and if I had spare money, I wouldn't mind getting a dress on one of my models like this, but I just do not have those funds right now. That said, thank you very much, Cricket, for the fan art submission. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, drop it into the fan art section of the Discord, which you can get to in the description. That said, today we're talking about Matt Walsh, who is talking about the special elections going on in Tennessee. So I'm not going to try to give any more preamble for this one. He's already poisoned the well for us. Let's continue with what Matt Walsh has to say.
And before we get to the viral stuff, here's a report from the Daily Wire.
Ah, yes, the Daily Wire, noted bastion of reasonable news coverage that definitely doesn't favor one side of the political spectrum exclusively compared to another. And also, they are the people who pay the paycheck of, Matt Walsh.
Aftyn Behn, the Democratic nominee running in Tennessee's 7th congressional district special election, repeatedly said in recent years that she would be willing to get arrested for abortion advocacy.
So she claims to be a Democrat with a spine who's willing to fight for what she believes in, and she believes that women should have rights to their own bodies that are not dictated by random people who happen to inseminate them. Okay, honestly, kind of based.
She's a pro-abortion extremist, willing to get herself arrested for the sake of helping women kill their children.
And that is what we call narrative spin. Once upon a time, the big debate with abortion was when life begins. Is it at conception? Is it at the heartbeat? Is it when brain waves are there? And I remember having a disagreement with another YouTuber friend of mine over what the right way to fight for abortion rights was. And I argued that pointing out that control over a woman's body should be, disincentivized is probably the strongest attack angle. Whereas this friend of mine argued instead that pussyfooting about when the actual life idea begins is a far more effective route. The problem is nobody can agree on that one, and this is the direct end result of that kind of advocacy. Now, obviously, Republicans were always going to try to take away abortion rights, but they believe that this thing is your child and is a living, breathing human being from the time it is but a zygote or even a single cell to the time where it is popping out of you naturally. Do note, this was always the end game. Trying to roll back women's rights is always going to be the end game for conservatives because when women vote, or just more people vote in general, they tend to lose elections. Oh, and lest you think I'm being hyperbolic here, Matt Walsh has gone on the record several times to talk about how there are certain people in the country that he doesn't believe should be allowed to vote. And a common tactic in any conservative circle is to give an inch and then take a mile. So once you're nodding your head that there are certain people in the United States that shouldn't be allowed to vote because you think that people with a certain skin color or with a certain education level shouldn't be able to participate in democracy, suddenly you are advocating for more people and a widening of the net of people who are unable to vote. It's a very, very natural phenomenon. But anyway, here, I'm going to back up what I said real quick, at least with him saying certain people shouldn't be allowed to vote.
There are some basic guidelines that should be in place. You should have to earn that right. Not everybody should have it. And it is so incredibly obvious that if you are an absolute oblivious moron who knows nothing about your own country that runs it, then you shouldn't have any say over it. It's not just that you shouldn't be able to vote, it's that you can't vote, really. Your vote is not really a vote. It's just random. You're throwing a dart at a board. You're rolling dice. It's not anything.
You see, Matt wants to say that living in a country should not be enough to get a say in what happens in that country. There should be certain classes of individuals who are allowed to have that say. You know, it's just so cool of him to argue for that. And, you know, who gets to determine who gets to actually vote in the country? Oh, why, well, Matt Walsh, of course. So he actually has a Facebook post that says you must be able to speak English fluently to vote. Which I don't see how having a different language than English suddenly means that you are any less of an American citizen. Like, what does he want to have a fucking language test before we actually let somebody vote? Who's he going to pay for that? You must be a U.S. citizen and only a U.S. citizen to vote, okay? So if you're somebody who has dual citizenship, he doesn't want you being able to vote. Despite the fact that you have every much of a reason to vote in American politics because you live here, you own a house here, you have a family here, whatever the fuck the case may be, if you're a citizen, you should be allowed to vote, but he wants this to be a thing that only citizens get, not somebody who has dual citizenship status. You must pass a 5th grade level civics test to vote. So here's one that most people can nod their heads on and still be incredibly fucking stupid about. Here's the thing. If I go to my local card shop where I play Magic the Gathering with people, I guarantee you most everyone there could not pass a 5th grade level civics class. They would not have the barest idea of things that were in that class when they were in that class, much less now when they're 30, 40, or 50 years old. But here's the thing, they are still affected by the laws and policies that are brought down from on high, so they should have a say in who gets to do those policies. Arguing that that should not be the case is a moronic take to the 9th degree, because you are effectively saying there should be an arbitrary rule that determines whether or not you get a say in the governance that you were literally born into. You didn't get a choice in the country that governed you, so you should at least be able to get a choice within that governance, but you want to strip that away from people because you think they're just not smart enough. This is a common conservative tactic because, again, when more people are allowed to vote, conservatives lose every fucking time. Every time we have a major turnout of voters, the votes swing left damn near everywhere in the United States. I actually got in an argument with a friend of mine about this when we were advocating for Jamal Bowman up in New York, where he said that, hey, we just don't want to get the conservatives out and voting. And I'm like, yeah, the fuck we do. We want everybody voting. One, when everybody votes, the numbers tell us we fucking win. And 2, it's their fucking right. We should all be able to do this thing. And finally, you must not be on any form of welfare to vote. Okay, so billionaires are not able to vote. I guess we're all even. But no, seriously, this is basically saying that if you are poor and struggling and government assistance is what you need, you shouldn't get a say in how that government operates. So if that government just decides to cut your assistance one day, you should have had no say in whether or not that happens. Fuck you and fuck your life. This is Matt Walsh's and a lot of conservative influencers' general attempt to just spite the poor. They don't want poor people voting. Which people are more likely to be uneducated in United States civics? Well, people who don't have the fucking time to get educated on that anymore because they are working 2 or 3 jobs. Which people are more likely to be on welfare? The people who are having to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. Which people are going to be unable to vote in Matt Walsh's world? The exact people who are disproportionately affected by those votes. It's a dystopian society that he advocates for. So make no mistake, I have no compunction in claiming that somewhere down the line, he would 100% argue that there are other classes of people that should be less deserving of votes. And those people would probably include women.
But really, it has nothing to do with other women. You know, this is not some kind of perverse generosity on her part. This is, you know, the only reason she feels so strongly about the issue is that she wants to protect her own right to kill her own children.
So usually when conservatives say stuff like this, it's because they themselves cannot perceive of a world where they would advocate for the rights of another if it did not directly benefit them. They are projecting when they do stuff like this. It turns out if the only way you can conceive of somebody reaching out a hand to help somebody else is because that moment of altruism would one day benefit them as well, then you yourself are an opportunist who would only reach out and help somebody if it would benefit you. because that is the framework you are operating with. We see in others a reflection of ourselves more often than not. So if Matt Walsh believes that she is only trying to protect her own rights, one, why should that matter? We should all advocate for our own rights. Two, I think he's telling on himself here. He's explaining to you, the viewer, how selfish of an individual he himself is.
Listen to this.
Representative, in 2020, you made some tweets that have since been deleted that were very critical of police. You said in those since deleted tweets that the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department should be dissolved. Another cheered on a teachers union saying that defund the police should be a requirement for schools reopening. And another saying good morning, especially to the 54% of Americans that believe burning down a police station is justified. 2020 was obviously a very fraught year. Do you still stand by those comments? And if not, is there anything you want to clarify?
I'm not going to engage in cable news talking points, but what I will say is that our communities need solutions. We need local people deciding, solving local problems with local solutions. And that's not the overreach of a federal government or state government of which we are dealing with in Nashville and our cities across the state of Tennessee.
So you don't want to clarify whether you still believe that the police should be defunded?
Once again, I don't remember these tweets, but what I'm saying is that
I'm not asking you if you remember. What is your position today? How's that on this issue?
I mean, I'm here to talk about my race, which is in literally 9 days.
Okay, so obviously there is some context here, but regardless, this clip on its own definitely shows a person who was willing to say very vitriolic things, albeit true fucking things, in the moment, but is not willing to back them up now that it is not politically expedient for them to do so. This is generally the sign of a coward. Now, I'm perfectly willing to admit that that is not a good look for her. If you advocate for defund the police and your stance is that they are an overfunded, over-militarized organization that needs to lose a majority of their funding, and that funding needs to be converted into stuff that actually helps people at the local level, like getting more psychiatrists and getting more therapists involved with helping people, getting those people to help run things at schools instead of having police as the catch-all solution for everything, including fucking wellness checks of all things, then sure, I'm 100% on board with that idea. But if you're not willing to maintain that stance later on, then I am going to see that as a form of cowardice. The easiest thing to do, instead of deflecting, saying, I don't even remember those tweets, or trying to do the political walk around, I'm just trying to talk about my race, it is a perfectly viable pushback to that to say, one of the aspects of your race is how you plan on handling the police department. How do you plan on handling the police department? And at that point, your best answer is going to be, I plan on working with local law enforcement to make sure that they have the resources they need to do their job. And I plan on working with local territories to make sure that they get the resources that they need in times of crisis or in times where they need help. It is an answer that 100% tells both the defund the police crowd and the pro-police crowd that you are going to be doing something for them. It doesn't actually tell anybody anything about your policy, and it doesn't sound like a deflection. It just sounds like being a politician who is doing their job. There were ways to do this, but I'm obviously working with hindsight and the ability to literally pause my recording in the middle to brainstorm what the right response is. I don't have the ability to respond to these kinds of things when I'm a deer in the headlights. I wholly get that as somebody who does live streaming for a profession. So I understand the deer in the headlights thing, but it does seem weird to see the walk back. But let's see how Matt Walsh handles it, because I feel like he's going to be a little worse here.
Lord, this woman cannot win. She better not win. And not even because she's a radical leftist mutant who wants to burn down police stations and kill babies and then lies about it when she's called out. I mean, that's the main reason she should not win. But also, she's just not even a good liar. That's the part that offends me the most.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody not being able to lie as well as you, Matt Walsh, would be a reason to be offended more than any. But if there's one thing me and Matt agree on, it is the cowardice in the walkback. But he mentions that she should not win. So why don't we go ahead and check and see how those polls are doing right now? And as of this moment, it looks like their chance of winning is actually pretty good. Early polling shows her as having about 46 to 49% of the vote, or sorry, 48% of the vote. And since 5% of that vote is undecided of the total 100%, and another 2% is going to be backing third-party candidates specifically, that means that she is actually leading with a small margin against the conservative opposition. And the margin for error there is about 3.9 percentage points or so. Now, bear in mind, these early pollsterings, these work kind of like weather predictions in that they're somewhat accurate, but like if you wait a while, they can just end up being flat fucking wrong. So we'll see what ends up happening in Tennessee. And hell, by the time this video officially comes out and is not, being recorded, this information may actually be out of date. So we'll see what ends up happening with her here in the next couple days.
Well, I'm not going to get into cable news talking points. Well, it's not a cable news talking point. It's what you said. These are your talking points.
Well, Matt, I want to agree with you, but I've been on the internet long enough to understand that a common way that people get attacked on the internet is having their feet held to the fire for stuff they said 5, 10, 15, sometimes 20 years ago. And it's honestly a bit of a tired tactic because people are not always the same person today who they were whenever they were posting 5, 10, 15 years ago. Now, to MSNBC's credit, they did end up saying, okay, well, what's your position now? Like, they pivoted correctly to the correct way to hold feet to the fire on that. But it is a common cable news and even just a mob tactic to grab random fucking tweets from somebody from years ago and go, this you, this you, this you.
Publicly called for the defunding of police. She has endorsed burning down police stations, which, by the way, is a stance that should legally bar her from running for office anyway.
So, Matt Walsh, would you agree that there are certain phrases that if someone utters, they should just be unable to, I don't know, engage in United States politics? Like, that's just a thing that they should do. Wouldn't that be a violation on freedom of speech? Just saying, just out there. And I wonder if somebody's stance was, say, not burning down police stations, but instead something more akin to raiding the United States Capitol on the day of an election or inauguration, would that be enough to bar somebody from being a politician who gets taxpayer dollars? I feel like that should be a thing, right? Like, if we're going to go with this standard, very loose standard where you get to determine all the rules as to what provides a person with the ability to be a politician, then yeah, I feel like January 6th is a good reason not to have Trump.
Okay, call me crazy, but you should not be allowed to run for office if you have publicly endorsed mob violence against law enforcement officers.
Man, something about those words you just said.
She's on the record on multiple occasions, actually, talking about how much she hates Tennessee and Nashville in particular. So this video went viral a few days ago. It's actually an audio recording. Here it is. Listen.
I've been heavily involved with the Nashville mayoral race because I hate the city. I hate the bachelorettes. I hate the pedal taverns. I hate country music. I hate all of the things that make Nashville apparently an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it. Yeah, I'm that girl at the airport that all these bachelorettes are giddy walking out in their two-toned colored Pantone pink shirts, and they walk out and I'm like, they're like, oh my God, Nashville is so bad.
They're so loud.
Now, I will admit that she's not totally wrong about, I agree with her about the pedal taverns.
So I think it would only be fair to show her clarification on these comments. But if you listen to the words she said she hates the things that everybody else considers quintessentially Nashville. So the bachelorettes, the pedal taverns, everything. And as I was looking into this, I actually noticed that there were Nashville locals that said that they hate that shit too. The touristy aspects of Nashville are the parts that they fucking hate. So they're all on the same page. But anyway.
State Representative Aftyn Behn here, the Democratic nominee for the 7th Congressional Special Election in Tennessee. For those of you just joining in, I often record segments in my Jeep Wrangler called Wranglin' Time. Yes, there is a theme song, and no, I will not be singing it today. But yes, I will bring it back because I know a lot of you miss it, and you've said I sing well. So I look a little rough. I have bags under my eyes because the Republican eye of Sauron has finally shifted towards moi. And I'm sure you've seen the commercials. I'm sure you've seen the onslaught of ads. And then today, the Republicans decided that they're going to start this narrative that me, the state representative who represents downtown Nashville, doesn't like the city. Now, I always want Nashville to be better, right? I want Nashville to be a place where working people can thrive, right? But sure, I get mad at the Bachelorette sometimes. I get mad at the pedal taverns, right? And you're talking to someone who has cried no less than 10 times in the Country Music Hall of Fame. The girl that just goes to the Ryman to hang out. No, we're not even going to go there. We are so close to winning this race, which is why these rumors are getting more wild. So I can't wait to see what they come up with next. But y'all, please keep doing the work. We had a huge group show up today to canvass in the middle of the afternoon. It was raining. It was wet. And this girl came up to me. She said, your campaign is inspiring so many of us across the state and across the country. Keep it up. And so you know what? I'm going to keep it up. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, which is fighting to make healthcare and life more affordable for Tennesseans. And so, I'm not going to take the bait. So let's go.
So none of that seems insincere to me. It seems like somebody who's pointing out that there are aspects of Nashville, Tennessee that they simply do not like and they would rather not participate in, but they still represent the city and they are still going to do what they can for the constituents of the city. Now, I may have other criticisms for her. I'm not familiar with this politician. I'm not familiar with any of her previous work. I'm not familiar with anything outside of this current controversy. So if there are any aspects of her that I am not aware of, then hey, let me know in the comment section below. Of course, this is the kind of information that would come to light during the twilight hours of a special election in order to try to sway the votes of the people in that election. It makes perfect sense. So I don't know. I don't see the same thing that Matt Walsh sees here. I see somebody who hates aspect of the city, the more touristy aspects of the city, but likes the city that she is actually representing. And when you look at the comments, you see a lot of the same stuff. People saying they want affordable healthcare and groceries, and they also hate the Broadway pedal taverns and the drunk bachelorettes. One person that says that they've actually met her on the campaign trail and she just hates the BS that happens there. Another person saying that most folks that actually live in Nashville can relate to Aftyn because they hate the bars on wheels too, but that doesn't mean that you hate Nashville, the city. And even another person saying that after 52 years they abandoned Nashville, but unlike her, the Aftyn is deciding to stay in Nashville and fight for the world that she wants to see in Nashville, and that is inspiring in its own right. Now, obviously, it's a political campaign. There is a non-zero amount of people who could possibly be commenting on this that are bots, but at the same time, not all of these responses read like bots. It reads like people who recognize what she's actually saying. And whenever we're in live broadcast, slips of the tongue happen all the time. So trying to hold somebody's feet to the fire for a slip of the tongue or for not articulating something perfectly when they don't always have the ability to edit that down in the end, or, you know, if it's a 3 or 4 hour video, there's all kinds of stuff you can miss. I don't think holding people's feet to the fire forever on that kind of stuff when they get a moment to clarify their positions is a really good course of action.
But pedal taverns are these giant multi-seat bicycles, basically, where tourists can sit and drink overpriced beer while they pedal around the city. So if you drive through Nashville, you're going to find yourself, if you have to, go through Nashville as part of your commute, it's going to take longer than it should because you'll be stuck behind a group of 10 drunk people on a giant bicycle pedaling on the street. I have never found myself drinking a beer and thought to myself, you know what? This would be so much better if I was outside in traffic, breathing exhaust fumes and exercising. I don't know why you would want to combine those four things in particular with a leisure activity. I have no idea.
So it sounds like Matt Walsh can actually agree with her points about pedal taverns, and it looks like a lot of the citizens in Nashville also agree with those points. I don't know. It seems like a harmless tourist attraction thing, and if you don't want to drive through the city, basically every city on the planet Earth has highways that go around the goddamn city, especially if you're talking about a place like Tennessee. I've driven through Nashville before multiple times. You can take routes around the city. So Matt Walsh actually does find the clip where she addresses the controversy, and this is his response to that clip.
Wait a second, rumors? But you said it. We just heard you say it. So Aftyn says on tape, I hate Nashville. Her words, like verbatim. And then she's called out and she says, what? You think I hate Nashville? Are you crazy? I hate Nashville. Wait, it sounds like you just said you hate Nashville. What? You think I hate Nashville? Who told you that? You did?
But you know what? Let's go ahead and play the clip again just to see what we get from it.
I've been heavily involved with the Nashville mayoral race because I hate the city, I hate the bachelorettes, I hate the pedal taverns, I hate country music, I hate all of the things that make Nashville apparently an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it. Yeah, I'm that girl at the airport that all these bachelorettes are giddy walking out in their two-toned colored Pantone pink shirts, and they walk out and I'm like, they're like, oh my god, Nashville is so bad. They're so loud.
Okay, so the bit about hating this city, in full context, it sounds like she's literally just talking about hating aspects of the city. And that's kind of where I am with places like New York and Atlanta. I love being in Atlanta. I love being in New York. When I'm not in a goddamn car. If I'm in a car in either of those cities, I want to gouge my eyes out with a rusty fucking spoon. I have absolutely no want to be in either of those cities for an extended period of time in a vehicle, but when I am walking or on an e-scooter, those cities are great. I think that the statement, I hate this city, is carrying a lot of weight for Matt Walsh because he can only see, or deliberately only wants to see, the surface level version of that statement. Like, I'm sure there are people who love New York City who have gone out and tried to find a taxi cab and been stuck in there watching the number go up for how much they're gonna have to pay for that fucking cab and just say, I hate New York. Like, they may just say that phrase in a moment of frustration, but not actually mean that they hate the city itself. There are just aspects of the city, like the traffic, that they can't stand. And this seems to fall in line with the clarification that she gave herself. But it's really weird to hear people like Matt Walsh, who complain about the woke mob and cancel culture, use the exact same tactics that those two groups of people, sometimes the same group, use all the fucking time in order to hold people's feet to the fire. Grab stuff that they said out of context from years ago, and then throw it in their face now and say, diss you, diss you, diss you, diss you. It's very interesting that a group of people that I know Matt has gone on record to criticize a ton are also the group of people that he loves borrowing tactics from. And fortunately for both you and I, that is the end of Matt's video. There's nothing else in there for us to critique. It's just him saying, but you said it, but you said those words, but you said those words. Okay, cool. But words don't have inherent meaning, Matt. Words have usages. So if I say those words, and I mean something specific by those words, is your interpretation of my words more important than my intent behind those words? There's certainly a middle ground between these things, but that's where a discussion is for. That's where one side clarifying what they mean is for. And then the true area between your intent and the way your words will be received can be found. But if neither side is willing to listen to the other side on there, or in this case, exactly one side is not willing to listen to the clarification from the other, then you're just going to have people who are arguing past each other because it is more politically expedient for them to do so. It is better for Matt Walsh and his finances to argue past this particular politician than to actually grapple with the words that she said. Use a straw man version of what she said instead of steel manning what she said, because when you steel man it, it's not that big a deal. When you straw man it, you can turn it into the biggest straw man on the planet before you try to burn it down after arguing with it. And it's generally the debate tactic of a coward, which, mind you, every single fascist is, and well, Matt Walsh does call himself a theocratic fascist after all. That all said, I do hope y'all enjoyed the video, all of the frustrations aside, and if you did, consider leaving a like, subscribing, and maybe even checking out my secondary channels. If I'm lucky, K-Fox will throw a visual up here of them. We had a discussion about editing earlier, but I've got a secondary news channel where you'll see me talk with Vice Rhino about recent events and other news things that happen to happen while I am on stream. And of course, I've got the Magic the Gathering channel as well, where you can sit back, chill, and listen to me talk about things that have absolutely nothing to do with politics most of the time. That said, thank you very much for watching, and insert end of video tagline here.
Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.